Lane. And guys, I just want you to know how grateful I am to have you guys joining us today, and how excited I am. You know, my motto on my show is everyone's looking for a hero. If you can't find one, be one. Lourdes Lulu Buck is one of those heroes that I discovered, and I've just been fortunate enough to come across her. And today we're going to be talking about a works that she's written, and I want to go in depth and talk about that. So we'll be getting into that. But before I do, you notice in the background you're going to see pictures of Beto Terrazas. You've heard me talk about him. He's a very, very dear friend of mine. He calls me his brother, and I call him mine. Right now he's in his round 4 of chemotherapy, and he is down in Silver City, New Mexico. I'm going to turn my volume up just a little bit here. Can you hear me now? That little tweak is all we needed. Anyway. So Beto is in need right now, and I was going to bring a $100 bill to show you, but I actually gave it to him a couple of nights ago. But really the point is, guys, if you find it in your heart, you know, when someone goes through cancer, even with good insurance, they struggle. I know. And, you know, he's really in need. He's really in need. The other thing I want to talk about is I just want to send condolences to the family of D-Rock. He passed away last night. He had an unknown cancer that they weren't able to find, and I just want to send condolences to D-Rock's family. There's going to be a show afterwards that's going to be honoring D-Rock, and you know, just keep his family in your prayers if you would, folks. I just would really appreciate it. I am the author of the Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story, and those of you who know me know that I wrote this book during my wife's illness. She passed away from a glioblastoma, which is a very aggressive brain cancer, 14 years ago last May. So there's a book that you can pick up. It's very interesting. If you have a loved one who's ill, definitely worth the read. Last week we had on our show B. Montoya. This was one of her 2 books, the D, B, and G Bed and Breakfast. And this was a memoir of B's life. And guys, really interesting book. If you're interested in finding out more about it, look this morning and saw that we had over 220 views on last week's show on Facebook alone, and so really excited to get her information out. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the show. Oh, wait a minute, one more thing, forgive me. Calma. You all know how passionately I feel about Calma, the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors. This is very near and dear to my heart, and most of my guests that I've had in the past year have been Calma members. And Lulu, Lourdes, do you prefer Lourdes or Lulu?
Lourdes or Lulu, it doesn't matter.
Okay. So I'm going to call you Lulu for simplicity.
Yeah.
There. So Lulu is an educator, and she's a member of Calma, and she's making a difference. Before we start, tell me a little bit about Calma. What has Calma done for you?
Calma is an amazing organization. They're actually trying to be a real organization, nonprofit. And wow, it is, well, first of all, more than anything, they've given me affirmation. Affirmation to just be Latina and just be who I am. And it is a safe space to have the dream of being an author. And you don't have to be an author to be a member of Calma. You could just have aspirations of being an author and then be surrounded by the most amazing and most intelligent Latina authors in Colorado. It is incredible. It's just a great family to be a part of.
Yes. Right now, Calma is looking for new members, and guys, there's great, not just opportunity to grow, but opportunity to learn, opportunity to share. If you are a mentor, call, find out how you can become involved with Calma, because it's a worthwhile organization. You don't have to be an author, like you said, you don't have to be an author, because mentorship comes in many forms. So if you find it in your heart, again, call the station, call me, call us, email us, and let us know how we can help you get involved. Calma is here to stay. Calma is growing. Calma is, like I say, when you're in the presence of brilliant minds, you feel better. And I mean, every time I go to a gathering, it's great. September 17th, before I forget, Raíces, down under the Colfax Viaduct, is going to be having a books and beer gathering for Calma, and I believe it's going to be in the afternoon, but I will be there. I look forward to seeing you there. Put it in your calendars, September 17th. And so let's go ahead and get started. I got to tell you, this book, Susie's Sky, I read this book and I was just, it was very amusing. I'm just going to tell you, I was amused. I thought, oh, this is really a cool book. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It's not really in depth. You don't have to take a college course to read this book. But when you get to the end of it and you realize what it all comes together and you realize, oh, this has some real merit. Not only in English, but it's also in Spanish. Sue Sky also has a curriculum, and I was so impressed with that because, you know, it's not just a book for entertainment, it's a book that has value. And, you know, I spent almost 10 years as a valuing diversity instructor when I was at the utility company. And one of the things that we always talked about was inclusion. And what is inclusion?
It's just, you know, it's diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance.
I love that. I love that.
It really is. It's just you're part of it.
There's no good old boys club when there's inclusion. There's no I'm here and you're not with inclusion.
Right.
I'm not better than you with inclusion. I'm not smarter than you. I'm not, you're not, we are equal. We're sharing inclusively. And the concept of this book, how did this come to you?
Whew. Well, okay, before, I've been in education now 24 years. And so I've taught 10 years, always language, culture, and equity. Always. That was always my drive. And so when I worked for the Colorado Department of Education, and I was a cultural responsiveness state trainer.
Wow.
With a colleague of mine, actually my sister, my older sister. We developed a training, and as we were training more than 20 of our Colorado school districts, teachers would come back to us and said, how do you teach these concepts without coming in with an agenda? I don't want to do that because community members push back. Some kids are like, hey, you're pushing your values on me. No, we wanted some kind of approach where it was safe, where it was exploratory, where it was coming from the kids. And so this idea, this is a 3-year project. This was 3 years in the making, and I piloted it with a couple of teachers, and they're just like, this is neat. I like this approach to it. That's my approach. I don't like calling people out on that. I like calling people in. And I like everyone at the table, and I want to hear everybody's voice around this work. So that's why this approach, that's how it came out.
Very, very cool. I love that it's not just for children, it's not for young children, it's for high school age kids, it's for really anyone. And I've really appreciated that, excuse me, like you say, it was non-threatening to someone who might have their guard up or someone who might feel threatened by this. It's very, very subtle. It's not, there's no deception in it, there's no hidden secrets or any agenda. It really, truly is about a girl who's asking other people, how do you see the sky? And it was like, oh, how profoundly simple this is. You know, and the more I read it, the more I thought about my own childhood and my own life. And, you know, I've been very blessed and very fortunate to be one of these people who is accepting of other people, you know, for their differences in most, you know, many cases. And I remember a friend of mine when I was a little boy in maybe first grade, and my sister used to call him Cinderella because he was very feminine. And I used to get so mad at her, and I didn't realize that I was being inclusive, that I was, you know, that I was being anti-racist or hate. And I really look back at that time and I think, you know, so many people in this life think that the right way to do is to exclude, or the right way to do is to be cruel or to be mean, and it's not so.
No. It's hard being different, because I grew up being different, right? I'm first generation American. I didn't speak very good English at the time, and kids would make fun of me. So I can't, that was another reason why I really wrote this book, is I can't imagine walking into a space and everybody accepting you for how you are, how you see your sky. And so the book, the reason why I wrote it the way it is, because it's through the metaphor of skies, is that when we accept people for how they are, our world becomes so much more colorful, from their differences, from their perspectives, from just their uniqueness. It just enhances our world when you really truly take people in.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it's written the way it is.
And it makes so much sense. The sum is greater than the whole. You know, it's like, it's such a simplified way of saying 1 + 1 = 3. Because when you put your energy with my energy, all of a sudden there's this new energy that's involved. And when you see, I mean, I'm just going to give you a little brief, read a couple of pages, because it's just so quick and so cool. Oh, by the way, the artwork is very nice in this too. I'll let you show some of that in just a moment.
Okay.
But it starts out, you know, oh, by the way, I'm going to read this dedication. Lulu's husband, Frank, passed away 3 years ago from colon cancer. This book is dedicated to Frank, my angel in heaven who always showed me unwavering support for my crazy dreams. My sister, Georgina, who is my partner in my dreams of equity, and my 3 children. So I just wanted to make sure and read that because, you know, we all have loved ones that we care about and we miss, and we would love to have them, and having this is forever imprinted on your heart, so that's wonderful. But just starts out, one day Sue was walking to school. On her way, she looked up in the sky and said to herself, wow, the blue sky is very beautiful today. So simple. I mean, when you read this, it's almost deceptively simple because it captures you and your attention just goes to, oh, what's on page 2, you know? And also, so what happens was Sue goes through and she talks to Maria. Isn't the blue sky beautiful today? And Maria replied, the sky isn't blue. Where I am from, the sky is always pink and yellow. Isn't it pretty? The kids on the playground yelled, you're weird, Maria. The sky is blue. So this is such an important pretext of group mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And how so many times when we let the opinion of a few, or even just one, sway us, then we've all of a sudden lost ourselves in the reality of this is what's important.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that Sue looks at everyone and says, hey, that's okay, you know, the sky is this color, and it's okay. And I see the sky this color, and it's okay. And what does that mean to us?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
It's okay. And so when she runs into Maria and she sees it as pink and yellow, I love that. So this is actually the original artwork for Maria. This is, so when you see it actually live, it doesn't look, it just, when you see pictures in print, it's not the same. When you see artwork, I always bring the original artwork to kids' classrooms and things like that. But the next page after that, Sue's sky changes, and now you see blue, pink, and yellow. And her next friend, George, sees it as gray. And she goes, isn't the blue sky pretty today, George? And George is like, no, it's gray where I'm from. And I was like, isn't it interesting? So the next page, Sue's sky is now blue, pink, yellow, and gray. Yeah. And so, but the kids, and I purposely made the kids plural on the playground because it's really hard for a kid to stand up to somebody that's more than one person.
Right.
So specifically the curriculum teaches anti-bullying, but it also teaches how to be Sue, how to be an upstander. And that's really hard to stand up for more than one person. And so it's a children's book, right? So, but it's a safe introduction to some of these themes in the curriculum that are really hard for older kids to understand. So when you read a children's book, they're like, oh, their guard's down. They're like, oh, this is a children's book, right? And then you come into it and wait a minute, you're making me think about deeper things here.
Yeah, and it really is, because once you start reading it, all of a sudden your mind, and here's what I loved about it, your mind might have been on guard, or it might have been defensive, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I could take this, I could read this, what's on the next page? I mean, literally. I don't want to go too much into it, but the last of the book just caught me by such surprise when the teacher, someone comes up and says, there's birds up there, don't you see? You know, there's like, wow! And the simplicity of it was so wealthy. I mean, it was so beautiful because even the teacher came into the perspective and brought value to it. Brought meaning to it, brought depth to it, brought beauty to it, that all the other kids were looking beyond, you know?
Right.
And so it really just for me, just gives rise to the thought that everyone has something to offer. I once heard it said, everyone in this world is superior to me in that I could learn something from them. You know, I've also heard it, no one's completely useless, they can be used as a bad example. So we got to be careful with that. But everyone has something to gain. I mean, to give and something to share.
Yeah.
And so tell me about your implementation of this curriculum. What's happening with that?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think the biggest compliment for me is that teachers trust it in their classroom. For me, that is beyond anything. But did you notice at the end of the book, Sue's questioning changed? She asked the teacher, what color do you see the sky? Because all the other friends before that, she goes, isn't the blue sky pretty? Like completely oblivious.
I didn't catch that. Yeah.
So I purposely bring that out, that her questioning changes when she finally goes to her teacher and she goes, well, how do you see the sky? What color do you even see it? And then her mind just blows again, because the teacher doesn't even see color.
Doesn't even see the color at all.
She sees the clouds dancing with the birds, and, and she points it out to Sue, and Sue's mind blown again. And she's just like, wow, you know, everybody has a different perspective. And when you actually sit and listen to people,
oh, absolutely,
right? It's about listening and taking it all in. That is just, it's incredible to me. So working with students and teachers in the concept, one of my favorite lessons in this is about bias. And being aware of our biases, and to have that skill set taught at a younger age, to me, is changing the world. And
it
so
truly is.
One of the lessons is around the colors of the sky. So George sees it as gray, right? And Sue sees it as blue, and Maria sees it as pink and yellow. So I asked the kids, each character, what do you think Maria's like? And they say, she's creative, she's fun. What do you think George is like? He sees the sky as gray. He's depressed. What do they wear? Oh, he wears a hoodie. Would you be their friend? One student said, I would be George's friend because he could probably use one.
Wow.
And so then I asked the kids, how do you know?
Wow.
Like, what do you mean, how do I know? I was like, you made all of these judgments, all these biases, based on one thing. How they see their sky. Is that fair? Sometimes that's okay, and that's positive, but sometimes it's not so positive. And we make all these assumptions. So the kids sit there, and they're just like, ooh, that's kind of, I was like, why do we associate gray with being sad? So we go down this route of how society sometimes forms our judgments around other people. And can you imagine that conversation at the high school level?
Oh, geez. And so much more, more mature or more perceptive. The kids might be really give some profound answers, I'm sure.
Right. But at the younger ages, and middle school and elementary, it's mind-blowing to me that they do understand bias. They do understand judgment. It's just surfacing that for them so they are aware of that. So they're less judgmental with their kids in the classrooms. And so the lessons purposely go in an order that makes sense to really develop a safe space.
Yes.
So that first one is around safe spaces. We make flyers around the sky. We put them in the classroom, and it says, you know, your perspective, how you see your sky is safe here. And so when kids say, that's a dumb question, the teacher can refer to that and say, hey, no, that's how he sees his sky. That's not dumb. It's okay in here. And so it helps with classroom management and accepting other people's perspectives.
Oh, man.
Right?
Labeling.
The second lesson is around anti-bullying. And it's amazing to me how we have to formally teach kids what is bullying and what's anti-bullying. And so we teach them how to be Sue. And then the third one is around biases. So now we've developed safe spaces, anti-bullying, bias. Now we're aware that the fourth lesson, which is a lesson that we usually do at the beginning of the year as an educator, and we have to establish a foundation. So the fourth one is around identity. So I ask them, what's one thing you want people to accept about you? And then, what are you most proud of? What does your name mean? They go into identity. And then I ask them, okay, write those words down. Now think about those words, and how would you put them through a form in creating your own sky? And so they paint their own skies and take the time for them to really share what those skies mean. And then we hang them all on the wall to replicate the last page of the book. You know, it's, wow, look at how colorful our community sky is. Look how safe we are. But because you've established such a safe space that you almost have to be careful, because kids will share everything. So one kid, this was the cutest one, he said, I was like, what do you want people to accept about you? He goes, I wish people would accept that I'm shy. So he painted a little bird hiding behind a cloud. But then the most memorable moment I've ever had doing that lesson was a little boy said, "I wish people would accept that I'm gay." And he painted a rainbow in his sky. And it was just, it was the first time for him to come out. And it was a very powerful moment. And so after the class, I didn't want the class to end, but when it ended, I cried, because I was like, just that moment alone was worth writing this book. To give that safe space for that student to feel safe enough to tell his little colleagues, this is who I am.
How was that received?
It was, one little girl got up and gave him a hug, and then they all sat down. I just was so blown away by that it was amazing. And so the last lesson's around teamwork. So when you have a team of people at the table and we all have different perspectives, if you truly honor everybody's perspective, the solution is much more colorful. The solution is much more diverse. You'll hit more people when you truly listen to people. So I've actually done this also with adults in bringing departments together and really listening to each other and thinking about the concept of we all have a different way of seeing things. And so when we truly listen to each other, engage with each other, our world is so much more powerful.
Every viewpoint counts.
Every viewpoint.
And every viewpoint is important, and not only is it valid, but it's critical. You know, there's so much going on in this country right now. There's so much division. There's so much anger. There's so many people who are convinced that the difference is bad, that, you know, diversity is a bad thing, and it's really not the case. The fact of the matter is that we need diversity. That's what makes us who we are. That makes us, you know, they say that we're a mixing pot. I think we're a salad bowl. You know, I think that we're just, you know, I like a little tomato, I like some cucumber, I like some carrots, I like some lettuce, you know, a little dressing on there, and that's what makes it good. That's what makes it whole.
Yeah, I'm super passionate about this work around equity and bias and diversity, because it's so complicated.
Yes.
You're dealing with people's thinking, their beliefs, how they grew up, and that's complicated. It's not on the surface. It's not something that you could see.
Oh, it's very covert. It's very, yeah.
You have to dive in
Subtle.
and get to know that person.
Oh,
it's
man.
about relationships. And so when someone says something, now that I've been in this work for so long, when I don't agree with somebody's views, I don't just cut them off. No, I let it in, because I'm like, where did that thinking come from? I wonder how they grew up. And then if it's really strong, then I'm like, there's a solution in there. And if I can figure out where that came from, I can kind of surface that. Because truly what I want to do is just erase hate. That's really what I want to do through this work, is just, I just don't understand how people can be so mean to another person. It really does baffle me, but I find it fascinating to try and figure it out.
I remember my daughter's going through school, and my youngest daughter getting just pushed around, bullied, and, you know, someone beat her up in the hallway, and then they suspended my daughter, you know, and it's like, where does this anger come from? Where does this bitterness or this hatred, you know? And it's like, we need to get a ground. We need to get focused on equity. I love that word. Talk about it. Talk about equity.
Wow. Well, what I tell schools is, there's this image out there. If you look at equality versus equity, you'll see this image always comes up. It's these little kids watching a baseball game, right? And so there's a fence blocking their view. And so equality is just giving them all the same thing. But the tall kid can see, we give them a box, right? So we give them a box that they can stand on, but it's the same size box. This kid on this side is short, but this kid on this side is really tall. So the box, same, equal, works for this kid, but it doesn't work for this kid. So equality is giving the short kid a little bit more boxes, but this kid has the same amount of boxes, but they can all see the baseball game. It's the same image. We all see this image. But for me, it's like, no, I want to see liberation. Like, I just want to see that there's no fence there, that every kid can see the game regardless of whatever ability that they have. Yes. So that's what it means to me, that
Absolutely.
we have to get to liberation somehow. And there's solutions in really thinking about people. Like both of us are passionate about people fighting cancer, right?
Absolutely.
But we have experience with that within the culture of cancer. We know what that feels like. We know what it means to be a caregiver. We know the fight behind that. We know the financial burden that happens with that. So for us to create systems that really take care of people battling cancer makes such a big difference. And really helping educate this population who has no idea what that's like, because they've never been affected of it, and they're completely clueless around that. So another analogy that I bring is, I call it the blue button. So you know the blue button that, like, I have all this stuff in my hands, and I hit my elbow with the blue button so the door's open. That wasn't made for us. But we benefit from it, right? The system and society benefit from someone thinking about a certain population that needed the blue button. But we all benefit from that.
Wow.
So when we really think about creating systems for people that really need that, we all benefit from that. Our whole world becomes more colorful, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love training around this work. I love creating curriculum and small things for children and for adults to really kind of go in a safe way, regardless if you're way over here or you believe way over here. This is a safe entry point for everybody to really talk about this work.
Very unthreatening, very, very, like you say, safe.
Yeah.
Guys, if you're just joining us, you're watching KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. This is the Weekend Boost, and I am your host, Paul Lane. Those of you who are wondering why I don't have hair today, I did this in support of my friend Beto. Beto is in his 4th round of chemotherapy, on his 2nd battle with cancer, and he lost all his hair. And I mean, there's not a lot I could do, but I was able to, just, I sacrificed a little. Beto is in need. There's a fundraiser going on right now. And Beto and Ruby, again, they're our best friends, and they're wonderful people. And if you can find it in your heart to donate to this cause, it's a very worthwhile cause. We're talking to Lulu Buck today about her book, Sue's Sky. And it's just such a groundbreaking document, and I think it has so much merit and possibility. I think this is something that could literally be taught in every school in America. I mean, and I really feel strongly about that.
Thank you.
Usually when I get a book from a guest, I gotta do some real buckle down reading, and I mean, I'm sitting there and I got the book and I just started reading. It's like, oh, this is going to be such a simple little book, and then I kept going. It's like, this book says so much with so few words. How did you do that? You really, really put a lot of useful, impactful information in such a small book. I mean, it's really amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is. How long has the book been out?
It's not even been out a year yet.
Oh, geez.
September it'll be out. Greeley Evans School District had me over for a workshop. Billy Martinez Elementary, I give him a shout out because they actually are implementing the book school-wide.
Oh, right on.
Adams 12 had me over because I just released a Spanish edition of it. It's El Cielo de Susana.
Yes.
El Cielo de Susana, a lot of my world language colleagues and classrooms are implementing it in Spanish because it is such a safe entry for high school students, but high school students are developing their second language, the Spanish language. So to talk about some of these concepts, they know it in English, but it pushes them to talk about it in their second language in Spanish. So I give a shout out to Adams 12. Thank you for trusting me and having this book in your classrooms. And so there's pockets of teachers throughout the state that have implemented it. And so they come back and they give me feedback on just what to improve or what to add or how do we tweak. So they send me pictures of some of the skies that students have, that they've painted. They show me their community hallways where they have all of their skies on display for other kids to see too. And so I think the most powerful is teachers have said that it's helped with classroom management because after COVID, it was hard to bring back students in a way that was structured and also to just accept how kids were coming back. Because some kids were coming back very traumatic. They've had traumatic experiences during COVID.
I can't imagine.
And so to understand trauma is another perspective that has come and surfaced through the work of this book.
Man, it seems like the simplicity of this book has really been able to divulge or to bring out a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings of loneliness or feelings of being left out and helping them to be minimized or even removed, because you see that, hey, it's okay if I'm tall, it's okay if I'm short, it's okay if I'm white, I'm black, I'm gay, I'm man, I'm female, whatever it is, it's okay. And every page finishes with, well, not every page, but almost every page is, it's okay. She likes this guy or he likes this guy, and it's okay. And it was such a simple solution to so many complex problems.
Yeah, the vocabulary was really specific. Like, it is okay. It's like, can you imagine? It's okay. Like,
Yeah.
like when I was in school, I had corn on the cob in the cafeteria one time. And us Latinos, we eat our corn on the cob with mayonnaise and Parmesan cheese, and the kids were just like, ew, oh my gosh, that's so gross. They're like, you don't put butter on it? I'm like, butter? You can't taste the butter, right? Like, no.
That's
great.
great.
And even a little bit of tajin. So we put, the mayonnaise, the Parmesan cheese, and I just will never forget, I never ate corn on the cob in front of anybody ever again, because it was just like, wow, I really got hammered for eating it that way.
Really, yeah.
And so in the lunchroom can be really a horrible place for some kids that bring in their own culture into the cafeteria, and kids just look at their food and just like, ugh, that's not. It's like, no, it's not. This is the way I grew up. This is the way I eat it. And so I thought about that concept too, that I'm like, this is the way I eat it, and it's okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah, and
it's actually pretty good.
I told one student, I said, don't, try it first. Try it. You might like it. And I had one little friend that was brave enough to eat it, and they're like, oh, that is good. And I was like, yeah, it's flavorful, isn't it? And so that concept to me too is what's safe for kids to come in, and for kids to bring in their culture into but there's a lot of kids that will just eat cafeteria food or just bring peanut butter and jelly because they feel like they have to conform themselves into the majority of society. And I see that all the time with kids. They say they change themselves to be white. They change themselves to be the majority instead of just being who they are, because it's not safe to just be who they are.
Yeah.
And so now I eat my corn on the cob with mayonnaise and Parmesan cheese, and I don't care what anybody says.
That's right. Well, now everybody knows what elote is.
The elote, yeah.
I believe it was Abraham Lincoln said, it seems to me that most people live lives of quiet desperation. I used to tell kids that when I spoke in the schools, and I would always tell them that story, and what I would always say was, but you know what, most people are sitting there not shouting it out, but they're all screaming at the top of their lungs. Look at me, I'm special, I want to be loved, I want to be accepted, I'm here, and it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The other word that I used was weird.
No, yes.
Weird, that's weird. What does that mean? And I asked the kids, what does weird even mean? I mean, it's like, that word in the English language is so not okay. Nothing should be weird. Everything should just be looked at and is like, oh, take it in. Take in the weird, and what does that do for you?
Wow.
And the kids are just like, oh, you're right. I was like, what have you said that is weird?
There's an implied fallibility. There's an implied inferiority.
Yeah.
You're weird and I'm not. You're just weird in a different way, pal. Come on,
Right?
We used to do an exercise when I was a diversity instructor, and we would put labels on 5 people's heads.
Oh, that's
and there would be one that was leader, one was radical, one was stupid, one was engineer, just different labels. And then we would put them in a group, and everyone would watch them interact. And it was so powerful because you could see that everyone would turn to the leader. And then the stupid person would come and try to make a comment, and they'd shut up. The radical would come up, and they treat them accordingly. And so much in our lifetime, and so much in the world we live in and we thrive in or we don't thrive in, is directly related to how we're accepted and how we're perceived and how we're treated.
Mm-hmm. And labels is powerful. That's a
Oh,
great
man.
follow-up activity after
Oh, no
having the
kidding.
safe introduction, right?
Mhm.
So the kids have that understanding and they're aware of all those. That would be an awesome follow-up activity after that, because you've
Oh, yes.
established the foundation of safe and
Mhm.
being aware of bias and working together and how we treat people based on their labels.
Yep.
Incredible activity.
And it really is, it's powerful, and it's really useful because it not only does it shake you up, but it opens your eyes. And by shake up, I mean it really gives you a realization that it really is okay to be different. There are people who have different value systems than me. They have different family values, and they have different circles of friends, and they had different education levels, or teachers even.
Mhm.
You know, and each one of these influences dictates who we become.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that this person is better, smarter, richer than this person, you know? And so inclusiveness is such an important part of education.
And it's diversifying our systems.
Mhm.
You know, this is a self-published book,
Mm-hmm.
because as a Latina author, it's hard to get picked up by a traditional publisher.
Oh, man.
If you look at the percentage, right, of Latina authors that are truly published by a traditional author, the percentage is, I think it's like 7%. It's
Wow.
not very high. Well, you look at Broadway and how they diversified. What a groundbreaking moment when Hamilton
Oh, yes.
came
Oh,
about.
yes.
And how did it change Broadway
Man, that
after
changed
Hamilton?
the face of Broadway.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
It's because now we have color in
Mhm.
Broadway. Now the sky is colorful and is enhanced people's worlds
Wow.
around Broadway.
Wow, that's a great example.
That's the concept.
Mhm.
So I always think about, I can't imagine being picked up by a traditional publisher.
Wow.
With that, I can't imagine my colleagues, El Calma,
Mhm.
not being self-published, but really being out there.
Especially with the authors that we have in Calma.
Right, they're
You know, the
brilliant.
Virginia Sanchez, and Kimberly Sanchez. There's Juana Bordas. There's so many. I mean,
Aw.
there are so many, and it's really a shame that the Latino authors are not being recognized, because I mean the works that I've been able to read have been really impressive. I mean, it's like, wow. And then when I go into the presence, guys, I'm going to plug this again. Saturday the 17th, go to Raíces. I will be putting the address out here in the next show, but man, it's going to be a great experience. When I left there, my first books and beer meeting, I was floating on air. I mean, to see someone so bright like Manuel Ramos, who is so brilliant, and to go sit next to him and just hear him speak, is like, oh man, I really was in the presence of greatness.
Yeah. I have imposter syndrome when I'm in their presence. I really do. And that's kind of my fault. I mean, that's why we're not, because we do have imposter syndrome, but I'm among them, and I'm just
Yes.
like, am I really part of this?
No kidding.
Do I really belong here?
I know.
I get chills just talking with them and
Yeah.
being part of Calma. That familia is
Oh, man.
incredibly
You know.
intelligent and beyond anything that I could ever
Absolutely.
think I would be a part of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the name after name, Arturo Jimenez, Ricardo Laforet. I mean, oh my gosh, man, you're talking about legends. I was fortunate enough, I met Lalo Delgado back in the 90s. I think it was the 90s, might have been in the 80s, but I met him one time, and it was like, I didn't know who I was talking to. I didn't know who Lalo Delgado was. And then I found out years later who he was, and then I said, I met him,
Wow.
If I would have only had the presence of mind to know that the greatness that I was around, Dr. Ramon del Castillo, oh my gosh. I mean, there's just, name after name after name. There's author after author, and they're all there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all waiting for you to come on board, and Calma is growing.
Yes.
And so you have some other works. Do you have any other works that you're working on right now, or is this?
Equity training. I'm in the process of drafting book 2, and it is an old childhood fantasy of mine. Actually, I used to dream about flying. I used to just dream about what would it be like to see the world from, which is weird, to see the world from the sky and from up without just having wings, really. And so this book, actually I wrote it 24 years ago.
Wow.
And it just sat I was always told that I would never be a good reader or never be a good writer. I was completely illiterate in English until the 4th grade.
Wow.
Completely illiterate. English was, it's such a hard language.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it finally clicked, it clicked. I mean, it really clicked. But I grew up illiterate, and I wrote this book 24 years ago as a first-year teacher. And I had a dream of just wanting to publish it.
Wow.
So I contacted an illustrator who was brilliant. It was amazing. And I said, you know, how much would it cost to have this book illustrated? And so he gave me a price, and he's like, well, I can't get started until you put at least a third down payment. Well, as a first-year teacher, it was outrageous for me to think about that kind of money.
Wow.
I raised it, I had garage sales, I worked a second job, and I had the deposit. And I gave it to him, and he only gave me a picture of the main character and never gave me another illustration after that. And so I was too young and too dumb to know that you gotta put things in contract and you can't just trust people and do all that. And so it kind of killed the dream of just publishing that book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird that this is my first book, but this is actually not my first book. It's this other one that I'm working with my current illustrator, who's extremely talented.
Mm-hmm.
And she's amazing. She used to own, do you remember Dabble? It was a paint and sip place in Longmont.
I don't.
She was the owner of that.
Oh, really?
So she's an artist, and she used
Oh.
to own one of those paint and sip places. That's actually where I learned how to paint. And so after she closed it and retired, when I came up with this book idea, she's like, I'll illustrate it for you.
Wow.
And so that's how we became friends. And now, 24 years later, I said, you know, I've always had this book idea from 24 years ago. Can you help me illustrate it? And she said, absolutely. And I was like, and I told her my story, and she goes,
Wow.
won't it be nice to tell him, you know, here it is, 24 years later, you kept my money, you stole my money, and here it is. So it's going to be neat to finally see that dream
Mm-hmm.
come afloat.
Isn't it so cool that when one dream comes alive, all of a sudden all these other dreams start popping up?
Right.
You know, success begets success, and it's not just a slogan. It really is true. You know, when you write a book, all of a sudden you feel the energy to write another book, or to write even a poem, or just write a blog, or just express yourself on paper, express yourself in print, because it's so much more permanent than the breath that you just took.
Mm-hmm.
And when you leave this earth, something will remain.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
Something will remain. And long after you're gone, your name will still be here. And you know, one of the things that I love about you know, hosting this show is that I get to meet such awesome, amazing people who really are not letting their objections or their nothing's getting in their way. They're moving forward, they're writing, you know, like I talk to people, hey, if you're gonna write a book, how do you start? Page 1. Were you reluctant to start writing this, or did it just all of a sudden come to you in a burst of energy or brilliance? How did it happen?
Oh, late at night is when I get all of my ideas. And so I actually keep a little notebook next to my bedside. And
Mm-hmm.
so when teachers kept coming at me, how do you teach this concept? How can you teach this concept? Finally, it came in the middle of the night, just like, I wonder if that'll work. And I wrote it down, and it took 3 years. I was so fortunate to have my husband saw it before he passed away. And finally the illustrations were all up side by side. I read the story, and he even said, "Ooh, that's brilliant. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way." And then that's when we talked about, wouldn't this be cool if we had a lesson plan for this, and you could do a lesson plan with this. And it was my late husband, my illustrator, and my best friend, who the name is actually named after Sue. She's got such a fun, crazy perspective as well. It was the 4 of us that just sat in her kitchen talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's actually kind of a collaborative effort, but then my partner in crime, Georgina, my sister, who does this work a lot with me, came up also through talking with her on how these concepts come about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really talking with people that really know the work well, and that's how it developed.
I see.
Yeah, and so I actually have 5 other book ideas that are just in that notebook that I just can't wait to put into. Children's books. I never thought I would write a children's book ever. It just never. No, it's and I actually 24 years of teaching and education. I didn't even teach elementary.
Wow.
I taught high school. I taught high school Spanish, and I loved little kids, absolutely, but actually when I did my practicum as an educator and I was in elementary classrooms, I thought I picked the wrong profession at first. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this with the little kids. But then now as a children's book author, I write for little kids. But we also use it for high school and middle school.
Yeah, it's so applicable.
It's a K through 12 book, really. With the lesson plans, it's adapted to K through 12.
Truly, the lesson plan actually guides you. If you're an educator and you're considering something, consider this book. Consider this book in your classroom, whether it's Spanish or English. I'm serious, guys. Consider this book because there's a curriculum in here that is useful, it's applicable, it's handy, it's beneficial, and young people who read this or get this lesson, I mean, when you read through the lesson plan, it's like, oh, I get it.
I did it with United Way. United Way is actually our caregivers, our child care providers for the state, and so they loved it. So child care, I've done parent workshops, so parents that want to get their children from fighting, they're constantly fighting, and the curriculum's free. As an educator, I was so mad about paying for lesson plans and things like that. I can't make the book for free, but I made this for free. I purposely didn't get this published so teachers can just download it and use it. And so if you actually look at it, and it's everything that you need, they have to prep the teaching materials. So this is kind of the teaching materials on how they're prepped for the classroom.
So there's some ownership that's involved.
For the teachers.
For the teacher,
yeah,
yes.
there's a little bit of work to go with this, but this is the Safe Sky flyer that goes into the classroom. It's like everyone enters the space is fully accepted. We believe that nobody is weird and everybody is neat and everybody is safe in the space, and that's okay. So it's flyers and you could point to it and things like that. This is the Who Am I, so it could be whatever.
I like that graphic too, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
The different shapes.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
And then on top of that, I don't specifically put, I'll get it later. Those are the flashcards for the bully and not bully. So they put it in a T-chart. And the simplest way is to put a magnet in the back, and then at the dollar store you can get one of those baking pans, and you can use that to put it on there, and you can teach with the kids sitting down. These are the flashcards for the bias. So I asked the kids, what do you think George is like? And you can use these as flashcards. What do you think Noah is like? What do you think Noah's like? What do you think George is like? And they're like, he's sad and he's gray and
wow, man.
And so these are the teaching supplements. They're all included. You just have to prepare them. So I would.
So that really challenges the kids to look beyond their own biases. To look. How do bullies respond to this?
Ooh, because after the bully lesson, I have them journal. Have you ever been a bully? Or have you ever witnessed bullying, or have you been bullied? And it's amazing what students will talk about, and vulnerability comes out from establishing that safe space. So bullies will just be like, yeah, I did that, and they feel remorse, and that's what you want.
Yes,
that's a human reaction. Well, it should be anyway. Remorse should be a human reaction. And so to get that from the kids, that remorse, and yeah, I've bullied before, and I probably won't do that again, and it's really changing behavior to be an accepting environment, and just, again, erase that hate.
And you know what I like about that is that you're not putting them on the spot. You're not telling the bullies, you're a bully, you're a bad person, you're weird,
Don't call them out.
You're literally asking them to come in and lay their cards on the table and say, yeah, I'm a bully, And I think it's got to be a humbling experience for someone to look at themselves and say, wow, look at that. I have not been seeing through their eyes. Oh my gosh, what a great, I do. I love the concept. I think it really has merit.
And when they're not ready to share like that, it's okay. You have to step back. You just know I haven't created a safe enough space for that student to be vulnerable and to really accept it. So when they do say, yeah, I've bullied before and I won't do that again, that's when you're, as an educator or as a parent
really
or as an adult, you're going, yes, yes, I'm so glad, oh my gosh, he's doing it. Because then you just know I've changed his perspective to just be nice. Just be nice.
Yeah, to just be nice, to
Yeah.
just have some compassion, you know. And I'm curious about something. You know, with this day and age, we're having a lot of really, I don't want to call it, for lack of a better word, radical thought, you know, in parents with the education system. And I'm wondering, have you had resistance to this concept, or has there been people who yeah?
That is, I get that question a lot from educators, and so because the students want to talk about things, the students bring up concepts that could be controversial in a way that would kind of make a parent mad or the community mad. And the teachers will go back and they said, well, when you look at the book, you don't see people. You don't see religion. You don't see skin color.
Gender. You don't see any difference. Yeah.
Right.
In people.
Right? So when they come back and they're just like, oh, you're like, this is the book of teaching. It's what's coming from the students, and that exploratory, I really want to talk about, or the bias lesson. A lot of things come out from that conversation that kids want to talk about, and they're exposed to everything. And parents are just like, well, where did they get that concept? Where they're like, you're probably watching it on TV.
Your kids are a lot smarter than you give them credit for, guys.
And they see everything you see. You think you're sheltering them from this. You think you're sheltering them from that, but you're the one exposing them to that.
Yep.
You're the one explaining how hateful you are towards this group of people. Your kids pick up on that.
Oh man, they're perceptive. They see a lot more than you realize.
And so when they bring that into a classroom, or they bring that into the daycare, or they bring that into a space, even church group, that's hard for the adult facilitating those kids, because it's just like, they never got that from me. It's hard when society and a child's home impacts the group and the classroom, and so that is a challenge. That is really hard, but it's explaining it to them, and it's safe through this book, because it's just like, I don't see any people in this book. There are no people.
Yeah, it's very safe.
It's
I like the word safe is good, because it's very easy for people to put the guard up, or to be defensive, or to worry about all my friends are going to not like that I accept this, I have to reject this. There's this mindset it's a mob mentality. I don't know what you want to call it, but people need to see for themselves that this is really a non-threatening, it's a very safe book, but not only that, it's an important book for people to understand about, human interaction, human acceptance, not bullying. I mean, oh my gosh, I think every teacher in the country is looking for a way to teach kids not to be bullies. And this really, not only does it disarm the bully, but it exposes to the bully their own behavior. And they do it in a non-threatening way that you're not pointing a finger at them. So I thought it was fantastic. I really thought, boy, this is really something that could be used in a classroom.
And and I hate to say it, but being an election year, it's much more needed.
Oh.
And so you use the word, and I love the word you said, mob mentality. There's a lot of truth in that. It's called confirmation bias. We want to watch things, we want to read things that confirm how we believe.
See?
Right? Yeah. See, it said this, it said that.
Yep.
And it's just like, no, try, just venture out. Try watching the other network. Try reading the other article. Try reading the other perspective. And again, you're modeling to your child that there's a different perspective out there. It isn't just one way. That you have to recognize that there's all these other colorful ways to look at things, and just receive it. Just take it in.
You bet. You bet.
You don't have that, I like that mob mentality of it's just this way. This is the only way it can be, and just really let that other perspective in. It will enhance your perspective. It will enhance your way of thinking. It will enhance the way you see your sky.
Certainly.
You don't just see it as blue. Just let it in.
Enrich, enhance. I love it. I love it.
And colorful. So I have to show you the last illustration of the book, like
Please.
Because like I said, when we look at art, when we look at things in a print, that's why I love going to museums. I mean, when Claude Monet was here in Denver, I had to go see it.
Oh, yeah.
You could see his brush strokes. You could see his creativity. The way he paints water, a picture just doesn't do it justice. So this is another reason why I love doing classroom visits and talking to our art kids and saying, grab onto your art, because you just never know when you could be an illustrator of a book. But the last page of the book, I think, is the most beautiful, because it is all the skies together. And Chris Sykes, my illustrator, is just incredible. So this is, can you see it?
Very nice.
So there's metallic paint in there.
Yeah, and you can't see that on the camera. That's what's...
And you can't see it in the book either, but the rays, and you can see her brush strokes.
Very nice.
And so when I bring this out for the kids, they're just like, ooh.
It's a culmination of everything, yeah.
And art should do that. Art should make you feel something. You should be emotional. And so it's like, it's different. It's cute when I read the book and I turn the page and they go, ooh. But then when I bring out the real thing, they're just like, oh, it's like, yeah, do you see the bird? And so actually another kind of fun activity in the book is counting the birds.
Oh.
And so if you see, there's hidden birds in the clouds. There's another big bird. And so we were like, how many birds are on the last page of the book? And so it's kind of like a Where's Waldo thing, and they love that too. So every page has birds.
Wow.
But how many is kind of another fun seek and find activity that I have in the book that my illustrator came up with. She's always thinking about kids. She has such a neat mind around this. So I can't remember how many birds are in the last page. You see a lot of
young kids, they're fascinated by the detail. And, wow, that is so cool. Thank you.
Pretty? Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I love artwork. I'm an artist myself, and I love painting and being creative and thinking about all these different ways of thinking and seeing things. And so whenever I get to see art, I'm just always in my element.
Yes.
Yeah, appreciation is really what it is.
Yeah, it is. Let me see how we doing on time. We got 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So we've been talking to Lulu Buck Lourdes, and her book is Sue's Sky. And I'm not kidding you guys. This is something that small children can grow from. Middle school children, high school kids can gain from. It's such a subtle way of opening kids' eyes to the reality that diversity is real. People are valuable. People are different, but that's good, and simply put, this book is a great curriculum that I think could be used in, I think, pretty much any age group, really, literally.
Thank you.
She's written it in English and she's written it in Spanish, guys, so if someone would want to get a hold of one of your books, how would they do that?
It's just through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or even contact me at SueSky@yahoo.com. So the name of the book, SueSky@yahoo.com, if you want a copy also of the lesson plans, because the lesson plans are free. I again, didn't want educators to pay for curriculum that shouldn't be something that they have to pay for. It's just, I truly do want to just make a difference in kids' lives and also adults. I just want to change the world to just erase that hate.
And I think you have a very appropriate tool. I think it's very, like I say, beneficial. I think it's so simple, and yet so powerful. I really did. I appreciated reading it. I can't wait to see my grandkids, because I'm going to read it to them. I got a 7 and a 10-year-old grandkids, and it was great. It really was great. It was great having you on the show. Folks, you have been watching The Weekend Boost on KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. And we're just so honored and thankful that you have joined us, that you've taken time out of your day to be with us. Don't forget, after the show, there's going to be a tribute to D-Rock. Again, condolences to his family. Those of you who are interested in helping support Beto Terrazas, him and Ruby are in really, really big need financially, and the information on the GoFundMe page has been up behind me throughout the show. And with that, we are going to say goodbye. Guys, every week I close the show out with this phrase, and I mean it. Everyone is looking for a hero. You're looking for a hero. You're looking for a hero. I'm looking for a hero. If you can't find one,